Welcome to the InterViews podcast.
Prima intenzione, Bobo anticipato, palla vagante, mette giù, Recoba, il tiro,
Welcome, Interisti, to episode 174 of the InterViews podcast, the official podcast of SempreInter.com. We are here for the post-match reaction of Inter Venezia in the Coppa Italia, which finished 5-1 to the hosts at the San Siro. Goals from Andy DIOUF opens up his account in the 18th minute. Pio Esposito with another banger in the 20th. Thuram makes it 3-0 in the 34th. Thuram again gets a brace, finally back to his scoring ways in the 51st minute. Venezia gets one back through Sagrado in the 66th, and then Angelo Amboni, another banger to add to a collection of incredible goals Inter has scored this season for the 5-1 win. Moving on in the Coppa Italia, some other teams had some scares, but not Inter. Inter gets it done. As always, I'm one half your co-hosting duo, Alessandro Rafa, and today we are joined here again. Gianni is in the process of a big life move, so we'll give him a bit of a break here. But we are joined here today by Travis at the Pazza podcast. Thanks for jumping on. Hopefully the first of many, and go ahead and introduce yourself to the InterViews listeners.
What's going on, guys? Like you said, Travis here with the Pazza podcast. Started this little journey about a year ago, and it's gotten me interacting with a lot of you guys out there, and that was kind of the point of it. I've been a Inter fan for 25 years, and if you're familiar with Southern America, there's not many soccer fans or football fans, if any, and let alone Italian football fans. So it's been a rough life growing up as a lone Italian football supporter in the South, but we've made do, and I'm glad to be on here for, like you said, first of many.
Yeah, we really appreciate you jumping on. For the folks that maybe didn't listen to one of these previous episodes, we mentioned that we would try to get Travis on here. So this is a pretty good game for you to start your journey jumping on InterViews here. 5-1. The context, it is the Serie B team. Venezia, they did go down from Serie A last year, and they have retained a lot of their players. But it is the Serie B team. It is the Coppa Italia. Inter did do a lot of rotation, which is what the fan base was looking for. But I don't think it takes away really from anything that we saw today. In fact, I thought there was a lot that was really encouraging, stuff that we can hang our hat on, stuff that might change things for Kivu moving forward in the more important matches. Do you feel the same? Number one, does it make any difference to you what the opposition was and what the competition was? And also, if there was one thing that you took away from this game that you're going to take with you moving forward, what is it?
Yeah, I think it's a good performance from the guys. Sometimes, when you play a lower team like a Venezia, you can kind of slip and lose focus. I feel like I remember it must have been like 2018 or 2019. We played Pordenone, I think, in the Coppa Italia, and that went all the way to kicks. And it happens sometimes in matches like this. Napoli last year losing to Empoli. So it's an important game, despite it being a Serie B team. And to see the response from the guys and everything, there was a lot of good individual performances out there today. And I think that's an important thing. It's putting the pressure on these guys who are starters, a lot of the times first names on the team sheet. And that's something we really didn't have a lot of last season. And I think that's kind of what led to us falling short towards the end of the season and ultimately coming away titleless. So to see the individual performances from a DIOUF, Pio, even Fratesi, who I'm not the biggest fan of, he put 2 assists today, and actually completed a couple passes. So that was good to see. And then to see the youngsters, that's probably the biggest thing I wanted to see today, was to see some youngsters how many coaches have we had over the last 10 to 15 years? It doesn't matter if we're up 4-5 to nothing, and they refuse to put on, Primavera players or anything like that. So to see Kivu bring on, what was it, 3 or 4 of them there towards the end?
3 of them.
Yeah. I mean, you can't ask for more as an Inter fan, and we got some rest for some guys, some key players too. So all in all, I can't be really too upset with any performance that I saw today.
Yeah, and I think, to your first point just about the depth, the importance of depth is not, we need to have players that can rest our starters and blow away Serie B opposition. That's not the point of depth. The point of depth is that you do have options that you can go to when you have your starters off form, injured, whatever it might be, without the whole structure of the team breaking down and not being able to work. So, again, I don't really care about the opposition being what it was today. It was more so that they've shown that, we can rely on them for being able to step in there against better opposition. Sorry, you see me fumbling around. I got to charge my computer here. And then also, you mentioned the Primavera players. Inzaghi is definitely rolling over at the sight of 3 Primavera players getting minutes for this team. So yeah, it was. Sorry, hold on one second. I gotta really just plug this in before my computer dies. All right, is it better? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and Marotta has talked a lot about part of the reason that they brought Kivu in was to get started on this youth revolution, and I don't think Cocchi or Bovo or Spinace are anywhere close to real serious minutes with the first team, but these are the opportunities that you hope to see them get, and I thought all 3 did their job today. So a great win, some really positive things to pull forward, and let's go ahead and talk about some of these things. So obviously great goals, unfortunate to let in a goal at the back there, but it happens. And I think the place that I want to start today is with the 2 players that Interisti were going to look for in this game because of how maligned they've been so far in their careers here. Luis Enrique and Andy DIOUF. Today, Kivu goes with inverted wingers. DIOUF is more comfortable on his left. I don't think that we really truly understood this, but it became very painfully obvious to me that Luis Enrique is more comfortable cutting in on his right as opposed to being like a pure winger that goes to the byline. Those 2 in these specific inverted wingback roles, what did you see from them, and do you think that this can be an option for the team forward?
Yeah, DIOUF, I think Kivu's plan originally, why he put him out there, maybe was to get him as far away from the middle of the field and the goal as possible, or our goal as possible after that Cremonese match. And hey, it worked. I mean, he's looked good out there. His defending sometimes, especially late in the second half, they got that counter attack late. It didn't end up on a goal, but it was definitely DIOUF lost track of his man, and I think maybe Bisek or the other center back there came and cleaned it up. But going forward, I mean, he's looked really good in his appearances so far in that right wing back position. And getting a goal is only going to increase his confidence even more. And I was somebody after that Cremonese match, like, ship DIOUF out, get him away from here. I didn't want him anywhere near the pitch. And it's good to see a response from a player like that, a young player. That's all we can ask for is a response. If you're going to wear this badge, wear it and put in the work and create and show a response. And that's something that's kind of been missing on the opposite side from Luis Enrique. He's looked very timid and everything, but it's a new league for this player. That's one thing I've said a couple of times on mine. I'm not willing to give up on him yet, just because it's a new league, a new system. I bet he probably doesn't even speak hardly any Italian, and he's got Carlos Augusto there, the only other one that speaks Portuguese. So it's got to be a tough spot for him right now. But today, I wouldn't say he matched DIOUF's level today by any means, but there were signs. And that's all we can ask for. And I don't want to give up on him either. I mean, look at João Cancelo whenever he first came in to Inter. It took him, 3 or 4 months under Spalletti before he finally got going and was that player Brozovic. He got booed off the pitch against Sevilla. And the response from those players really is what made Interisti love those players and want to bring a João Cancelo back up from loan and everything. So Luis Enrique and DIOUF, if they keep responding and putting in these performances and showing that they have what it takes, I mean, we can't be upset with that. I will say, though, Luis Enrique, you got to put that one goal away. Like, you had that opportunity. That's a way to get you get 2 or 3 more games after that from Inter fans if you put that goal away to kind of, integrate back in. But the performances weren't bad. I wouldn't say they were great by any means, but they weren't bad performances for sure.
Yeah, fair or not, the narrative around these two players all season has been tied to the investment that was made into them to bring them over, which is a combined 50 million euros. And for a club like Inter, who, we don't necessarily have the war chest that some of these other teams have, it was a lot of noise. And frankly, the performances brought it on. Like you mentioned, there was a lot of timidity. There was a lack of confidence. But I think one of the things that football fandom in general, they don't have patience to play things out. DIOUF signed a 5-year contract. Saying it's a bust, a couple months into the season, it's not necessarily fair. Luis Enrique, I think, much more established player. I think the expectations, for what he should be giving to this team were justifiably at a certain level, as opposed to DIOUF. But the reality is like you mentioned, you're coming in from a different league. You don't understand the language. Kivu mentions like it's going to take time with these guys. Like this is, a different beast entirely. And my hope, based off of these performances specifically from Luis Enrique and DIOUF today, is twofold. One, the optionality that it gives Kivu in terms of the actual play style. DIOUF at right wing back is not going to do the things that you get from Dumfries at right wing back, but it still could be very effective. Him cutting inside and creating overloads in the midfield. You already are playing with 2 strikers, and then if you have a player like Bisek running down that line, I mean, it's tough for defenders just in terms of numbers to pick up where everyone is going. That's a really intriguing option, especially also considering the characteristics that DIOUF has from the speed, from the dribbling, from just like the incisiveness to get into the penalty area, as we saw with the goal that he scored to kick things off for Inter today. That's a really, really intriguing option. Before the game, the conversation was, why is he out at right wing back? Like, let's see him where he's more comfortable. But it, like you said, maybe it was to mask some deficiencies as far as the defensive transition is concerned. But it looks like that could be an intriguing option. And you could say the same thing for Luis Enrique. It wasn't as you didn't see as much of what could be devastating potential from that inversion on the wing back, but he's clearly just comfortable cutting inside and making a decision and having the goal in front of him like this, as opposed to having to do it on his left or having to get to the byline. So the second thing that needs to come out of it is just they need to build on whatever confidence they're taking away from performances where they don't look like completely out of their depth. I thought the Luis Enrique discourse after the last match was a little much. Like, it was just a really solid performance. And I said, it's the same performance that you get from Darmian every time he's out there. It's just simple. There's nothing really to it. It wasn't bad, but I think we've been waiting for him to show like just a little bit something extra, which is what he showed at Marseille, and we got that today. Really positive performances from them. Based off of the substitutions, you get 90 minutes from DIOUF and 60 from Luis Enrique, knowing that Dumfries is not coming back and Darmian is not coming back for this weekend's clash against Como. Do you expect to see Luis Enrique out there this weekend?
Ooh, like from the start? I don't know. I would still probably trust Augusto. But I mean, just for that defensive work, because I mean, Como, they can eat up that side. Who's the one guy, Asan Diao or whatever?
Asan Diao, Jesus
Yeah, I mean,
Rodriguez,
could you imagine Luis
Adai.
Enrique trying to defend one of those guys? It could be a mess. But it does. I mean, him coming off in the 60th, who knows? Kivu's kind of got a conundrum there, and it has to figure it out. But one thing too, to kind of build on your point, kind of with the Darmian point, is the right wing back position this year has not been great. Whether it's Dumfries, Augusto, Luis Enrique. So I mean, all these people that are hating on Luis Enrique, it's not just him. It's tactically something has been tweaked from Kivu coming in from Inzaghi, and we're not getting the production on that right wing back position either. I mean, Dumfries the last 6 months of the year was a Ballon d'Or candidate, and we haven't seen that this season. So give Luis Enrique some time, I think, and like you said, we need patience. Maybe in the summer or whatnot, if it still hasn't worked out, then we make a decision. But I didn't see anything wrong today, and like you said, Kivu has a decision to make this weekend.
Given the injuries that we're dealing with right now, do you potentially see the depth chart changing a little bit to where you have left center back is Bastoni and Augusto is his backup, left wing back is Di Marco and Luis Enrique is his backup, and right wing back when Dumfries comes in, he's the starter, and DIOUF ends up being the right wing back deputy?
I think it's too early.
I would prefer to not see Carlos Augusto out there, to be honest.
Yeah, the experiment hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. What did he come in? Was it the Milan match, or which match was it that he came in as a sub and actually looked okay?
It was before Milan. Let me go check. Make your point. I'll check the fixtures.
But yeah, he came on, looked fine in that substitution appearance, and then since then, he anytime he's gotten the start from the right wing back position. Again, it's kind of like what we said with Luis Enrique. He hasn't looked terrible, but he's literally like offered nothing in that right wing back position. And even today, at left center back, that's Carlos Augusto. He really didn't stand out at all against the Serie B competition. He didn't do anything bad, but like there was no standout moment or anything that I was like, man, Carlos Augusto, look at him out there. So maybe you're right. Maybe that is something to think about. Maybe Kivu has found the solution there as a backup right wing back for Dumfries, that it could be DIOUF. But I think DIOUF, there's so many question marks right now. Where do you put him? And I think that's kind of an exciting thing for him and for us as Interisti is, we have a player that we can kind of plug and play in a couple different positions, which we haven't had since we sold Zalewski this summer, kind of. So kind of exciting to see what DIOUF can bring, but yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe DIOUF should be the backup right wing back at this point.
DIOUF gets us on the board to start. The player that assisted him, Davide Fratesi, he gets, I think he got 90 minutes today. Yes, 90 minutes, 2 assists. Everyone knows exactly what my feelings are on Fratesi. So, but for the listeners that haven't checked out your stuff yet, I'll pose it to you this way. Overall performance today, how did you like it? And B, does it change how you feel about this player's potential future with the club?
I think Fratesi had a pretty good game. There were some touches that are typical Fratesi touches where it's mid-table quality stuff sometimes. He got the 2 assists, and you can't be upset with that. But Fratesi's just, if he doesn't score and whatnot, he's such a frustrating player because he can go and disappear for 30, 45 minutes in a match. And I think it was the Atletico game midweek last week where when he came on, I think that really changed the balance of our midfield because we were battling and competing really well with Atletico in the midfield. And then Fratesi comes on and the balance just shifted and Atletico took over. So for me, I was in the summer all about if we could get 40 million from like a Newcastle or Crystal Palace, whoever in the Premier League was reported as giving us that fee. I was like, let's run with it because I think Fratesi has reached his peak. For me, he's a mid-table player. He can bag a goal occasionally, but he just missing too much, and he's not the quality for Inter that's going to take us to the next level and really push Barella. I am not a fan, and for me, I think January, if he wants to push and make the World Cup for Italy, for him, he's got to move, and then I think for Inter, we got to move on and find somebody else.
Yeah, and frankly, just as far as the roster construction is taken into account, if Fratesi goes, you can free up space for DIOUF to start getting more minutes. He can play in that right-sided mezzala, which Kivu has been playing him in previously. To spell Barella, it would free him up there, and then see who you can bring in as an actual right wing back deputy. I think that's probably the better construction for the team moving forward. Fratesi pass accuracy today was actually kind of high for him, 84%, which is not. No one really writes home about 84%, but for him it was pretty good. 26 out of 31. They've credited him with 3 chances created, and obviously he has the 2 assists. So for me, I'm happy for the club with a performance like this, despite the opposition, because there's some element of it of like keeping his value at a certain level without it completely plummeting. It's like, well, he can still, he's still contributing in some manner, but it doesn't change how I feel about where that roster spot should be allocated to someone else. So good for him. It's also good to have someone that can eat 90 minutes for you, especially given what Hakan and Barella have been having to do recently. So props to Fratesi for doing what he should be doing today. Zielinski gets 45, which for me, I'm assuming that means that he's getting the start against Como. Sucic at 79, so I think Zielinski starts in the midfield with Hakan and Barella. Zielinski starts at Regista today. I think the thing that I was trying to understand, or what I was trying to take away from his performance, is who is the better backup to Hakan, Barella or Zielinski? For me, I still lean. I really liked some of the stuff that Zielinski did today, but he had an assist. I still lean on Barella because I feel like Zielinski is more susceptible to us getting countered, which is what happens with us every single game. How do you feel about it after the 45 that we saw from Zielu at Regista?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you on Barella. I think he should be that Regista behind Hakan. If you look at the 2 matches that he played, Cremonese, and then the first one was at Torino, we scored 9 goals in both those matches. Now, they were against 2 not great squads, but the balls that he was putting in, almost Chala-like over the top and switching play, he offers that, whereas Zielinski, he keeps it a little tidier and doesn't really go over the top as much. And I think
he wants to move up the pitch. Like you can see.
Yeah, he wants to dribble up the pitch for sure. And I think if you play him in that Regista role, you lose a lot of what Zielinski can bring to the team by being closer to goal. And since in the last 4 or 5 matches, some of the ideas that he has is so much different than what Mkhitaryan or Barella or Çalhanoğlu even has, where they're so comfortable in this system. They've been playing it, week in and week out for 4 seasons, that maybe they've kind of grown stale on their ideas and their thoughts. And Zielinski, he's battling, trying to get in the squad and be that player that can play week in and week out. So he's looking for a ball, a through pass, a dink over the top, trying to cut inside or take his man on, do something different than these guys offer. And I really like that about Zielinski. And I think he's proven that even though Mkhitaryan came back and I think had a good performance, I don't mean to jump ahead if we're going to talk about him, but I think Zielinski, his performances, and like Kivu said earlier in the season, players are going to get, they have to earn their time, and you're going to get rewarded with time on the pitch if you put in the performances. I mean, Zielinski, who's been our better midfield other than Barella in the past 4, 5, 6 matches, it's been Zielinski. So yeah. I think he has to get the start this weekend over Sucic or Mickey. And I really like him closer towards goal. I think he can put in a goal. I think he can provide an assist and just do something different.
I agree. And if you look at, where he's at just from a contribution standpoint this month of November leading into December here, 3 goals and 2 assists, which is, a pretty good return for someone who gets the odd 90 and then you see a lot of 45, 65, 12, 34. Like, he's not always out there getting a ton of minutes. So I'll take 3 goals and 2 assists in the span of a month, from my midfield, from a depth piece, honestly. Although he's working his way into the starter conversation, he's been hot, and today was no different. To round out the midfield, Sucic. This reminded me of like a Mkhitaryan performance where it was a lot more dirty work. And being the runner as opposed to doing anything flashy. He had that shot attempt in the first half that you wanted to go in so bad because you know that he's got these shots from distance in his locker. You just want to see him get more opportunities to rip it. But this was like a solid performance for a player who has had really good spurts of like really, really good minutes. And then, some periods of ineffectiveness. I think, almost 80 minutes of just getting up and down the pitch and being the person to do the dirty work is it's a positive sign from Petar, and he's an important midfielder for us. He's got to get to his top form. I don't think he's there yet, but I think today was another step in the right direction.
Yeah, and people forget, I think, he's only 21 years old, so he's still developing as a midfielder, coming into a team, with a Çalhanoğlu, with the Zielinski, with the Mkhitaryan, with a Barella, and getting these minutes. It was a mature performance, like you said, and from a midfielder, if you're not going to give the ball away and keep things tidy, I prefer that over, trying sometimes too much and giving the ball away, like we've seen from maybe Çalhanoğlu in recent matches. So I have no fuss over our performance from Sucic today at all. Like I said, 21 years old. Let's let him develop.
Yeah. And the 45 from Zielinski and the 45 from Mkhitaryan, coupled with Sucic's minutes today, we might see a Sucic-Mickey team up against Como, depending on, what the situation is. I could see Kivu starting Mickey and then having Zielinski come into the game, depending on the situation. But it could also be flip-flop, so we'll see how that shakes out. Let's talk about our forwards. All got on the score sheet except for the kids, Spinace. The thing that I was really looking for, we've seen a lot of different combinations. We have 4 very good options for those 2 striker spots, and we've seen all of them play with each other. And what I was really looking for was, how does Pio look like with Thuram? Because I think that's a good profile to be next to Pio. Pio being the target man, holding the ball up, and then Thuram running all over the place and working off of him a little bit. What did you think of that partnership today?
It was, they got 3 goals between the 2 of them in the first 55 minutes, so you can't complain about that. You're right, Pio and Thuram seem to work a whole lot better than even Lauti and Thuram currently. And I don't know, there were reports in the summer with Thuram liking Çalhanoğlu stuff. You'd like to think they keep that off the field, but you never know. There's been a little disconnect since Thuram's come back from his injury with Lautaro. And with Pio, it didn't seem like that. He was even trying some interplay with Pio, some back hills and stuff that we haven't seen in a while. So that was really refreshing. And Pio is just a joy to watch. He's not the most aesthetically pleasing player to see on the pitch, but he battles. And I can only imagine if you're a center back and you've battled with Thuram and Lautaro for 60, 65 minutes, and then you look over and see Pio is coming in for another 20, 25 minutes. You got to be shitting your pants at that thought that I got to battle with this guy for another 20, 25 minutes. And then to have the technique to look as clumsy as he does, but to have the technique to put that goal away today, it was fantastic. And then Thuram, I think since he's come back from injury, the effort and everything has kind of looked a little off. And we like to see effort as Inter fans. That's part of the reason why we always forgive Lautaro for abysmal performances, because of the effort that he puts in. And early on today, it kind of looked a little shaky from Thuram. And it's once he got that goal, he was hungry for more and in the action a little more. And maybe these 2 goals spur him on and get that form that we had at the beginning of the season. And then, with Pio scoring and stuff and Boni, we have a really good striker battle going on right now. We're really, even Lautaro, if he wouldn't have scored the 2 goals this weekend at Pisa, after this match, we'd be like, who is going to be the starters moving forward? It's an interesting problem to have.
Yeah, it's, with Pio and Thuram, I don't think that as far as their link up is concerned, that it was perfect today. They individually did their jobs. The link up, all I saw from this partnership today was that I want to see more. I want them to have more minutes together. Because again, you saw flashes, but it wasn't, as consistent throughout the game as you would hope. Thuram fought like an animal for the 60 minutes that he was on the pitch, which is, as far as leadership is concerned, you can see veterans taking their foot off the gas if you're playing a Serie B team in the Coppa Italia. That wasn't the case with Thuram. Like you said, it wasn't, the involvement early on wasn't super high, but eventually he got into the game, scores a banger, like, absolute rocket from outside the box where he's kind of like falling over, but he's still able to rip it perfectly. And then he gets his head on one in the second half. For him, it's really important that things start going in the back of the net, because you have at the start of the season like, oh, this guy's gonna walk away with Capo Cannoniere easily, and then things fall off. Especially when you're coming back from an injury, you want to make sure that you're seeing the ball in the back of the net. The confidence and the form is continuing to build. Pio, I mean, I don't know how this guy keeps getting called up to the national team, right? It's so ridiculous. He obviously has not earned that spot. Such a ridiculous take, but anyway.
Yeah, you have Milan fans saying Camarca is way better and all this stuff.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Good luck. Pio continues to contribute more goals from the kid. Another one that is just like rifled into the bottom of the net. Again, you don't necessarily expect it from a striker of his size and his build, but he does have that in the locker. It's not the only banger that we've seen him score this year. And the stuff that I think he needs to improve, a lot of opportunities he had to put Venezia away a lot earlier today in terms of how he was playing in and around the box. Some of those passes that he made, it could have been made a second earlier, or he could have chosen a different option. So I think that part of his game still needs to improve. The kid's 20, so it obviously, I think he'll get there. And then, he gets fouled a lot and doesn't get the calls. He also, plays aggressive and everything goes against him. So that must be frustrating, but I think he's showing some maturity, to keep things tight and not lose his head on the pitch. But I think when he's not getting those calls that are clearly fouls against him, then he starts to do a little bit of the flopping, which completely works against him. So he's got to clean some of that up, but he was awesome today. This back line. Is Bisek entering this guy should be undisputed starter status? For me, I'm more and more convinced that Bastoni, Akanji, Bisek is the best possible trio that we can put back out there. But how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I agree. I think Bisek should be in. It's a matter. Only the question for me is: do you put him at that center back position and keep Akanji at right center back, or do you do what we've seen, against Pisa, where Akanji comes in? I think maybe towards the second half of Atletico. Kivu did the same thing, put Akanji at the center back position. So it's the question of what position do you put Bisek at? And I think you'd mentioned earlier, at right center back, he offers so much going forward, especially, going around Dumfries, DIOUF, whoever it is over there. So I think maybe that is the answer. But Acerbi, he doesn't have it anymore. De Vrij, he doesn't have it anymore. And why go out into the market and search for something else when we have a guy like Bisek here who is wanting to fight for minutes? I think he came out publicly and said, he wants to get into the German national team for the World Cup. So he's wanting to fight for minutes. Like, let's utilize what we have on the bench, especially if we can't spend too much in January. Let's utilize these guys. And I think Bisek, his performances since was it Fiorentina that he played that first match at center back and pocketed Ken. Like, let's build on that and keep using that. He hasn't really put a bad foot. He hasn't had an error that we saw a lot last year, really. So he's on form. He's the guy on form, and maybe Como this weekend is going to be a real big test for him, and we can see how he responds.
Yeah, he got 90 minutes today, so I am curious to see if he gets the minutes this weekend. I think for him today, it was a really good performance. I think there were some missed opportunities to get up the pitch a little bit more, but I also think he was protecting DIOUF a little bit, in the event that he doesn't exactly know how to play the position. So I think that limited his forward forays a little bit, but super talented player that I want to see more of, especially in this side and the way that we play, where we press so high up the pitch and we want to throw as many bodies as possible. I think we need to see more of Bisek. Pastorello, who is Acerbi and De Vrij's agent, came out very recently with an interview talking a little bit about De Vrij and Acerbi and their contract situations, mentioning how Inter is not going to start those conversations until May or June as far as a renewal. I personally wouldn't renew either. I thought, De Vrij was solid today, but he's now been relegated to spot starts in the Champions League against, lower opposition, and now a spot start against Venezia. It's pretty clear that, as far as rotating at the back is concerned, Bisek, Akanji, and Acerbi are all preferred to De Vrij getting minutes. And as much as I think he is a really solid defender, I think that's probably right at this stage of his Inter career.
Yeah, I think he's soft mentally too. I don't know if you remember when he first came in after he transferred from Lazio. Like the first 2 or 3 matches Inter played against Lazio, I think that first season he came, he was the MVP, the Serie A's best defender, voted on and everything. But both matches against Lazio, Spalletti, no, I guess it was Conte at that point, set De Vrij, because after that whole Lazio contract situation and everything, for me, that kind of signaled like this guy mentally is not ready to go against the team that he kind of portrayed, if you will. And a lot of times it happens like that, where De Vrij just mentally kind of crumbles in a match and he does something stupid where he it's like a 30-second switch that turns off and he finds himself in the wrong position. And I think that's just the thing with De Vrij. It's mentally he's not all there. And unfortunately, he's been a good servant for Inter, but his time at Inter has come to an end, in my opinion.
We saw that against USG, where he just, he got spun a few times by Promise David of all players, which is not a good sign. So, I mean, if he can eat minutes and, give Akanji and Acerbi a bit of a rest here, thank you. But I really have liked De Vrij. And it's not like he did anything wrong today. It's just more so you kind of get the feeling of this is where he's at this point. Carlos Augusto is just, when he plays that left center back position, he's just solid. Like, he just doesn't let anybody get by him. He's tough into the tackle. He's obviously a little bit limited going forward. But Sucic and Luis Enrique like to push up, so he's got to defensively mind his business there. But I thought he was just solid, played hard, played the right intensity for this match, and not much to say outside of that.
Yeah, really. It was one like you wouldn't notice him on the pitch, but sometimes that's a good thing that he's not noticeable because he's doing his job back there.
Yeah. All right. Pep Martinez. Really, really, I don't think that there was anything that he could have done today to really solidify, this guy should be our number one. But it is possible that he could have done something today that could have hurt him. And I think mentally, maybe he isn't ready, given what's occurred with him this season, because the passing was woeful. Really nervy, really unsure of himself. Not at all like what we've seen from him. He's usually, I don't think he's given anyone a reason to not think he can't be the number one. except for today. My takeaway, the inference I'm going to make based on the performance is not like, oh, this guy sucks. It's more so mentally he's been rocked by a tragic situation. And I think that played a role in what was a really uncharacteristic distribution day for him.
Yeah, the distribution, like my first couple notes I wrote down, like the first two were giveaways from him. And it was the exact same giveaway, trying to play the ball through the middle, I think to Thuram. And it was not great. And there was a couple of times, I want to even say for the first goal for DIOUF, it was a pass intended for Bisek, and it was a terrible hit ball. Luckily, DIOUF was there to cover and then drove at the defense. But, he didn't clear that up really the whole game. It was a problem the whole match, it seemed like, Pep's distribution. And like you said, he didn't really have much to prove going against Serie B side. If they would have came out and scored, a couple goals against him, then maybe that would have been a big talking point. But he kept it tidy with the saves and everything. It was just the distribution, which is important to a team and how we like to play. That was we're asking questions about after this match. Now, as a keeper, ultimately your job is to, save the ball from going in the back of the net, and which the goal he couldn't do anything about. It was a big deflection. So I don't think he had a problem if he was even really tested at all today. But that distribution, I mean, like you said, it was a worrisome, and maybe that is a mental thing. That's why Kivu has kept him out of the starting lineup when everybody in the media, every fan, I'm sure he's getting pressure from Marotta and Zanetti up there to see what we can do and without Sommer. And like you said, Pep, he really didn't do anything that said that he should step in for Sommer, but we need to see more, and we need to see Kivu give him these opportunities. And if he can shore up that distribution, maybe we have something there.
Yeah, my big worry is that Kivu or management entirely just looks at Pep and says, okay, I'm a little nervous by the cloud that he played over his head today, looking like he was playing in quicksand. That's tough. And goalkeeper is the biggest area of concern for this team. It's just by the numbers. I mean, you just can't get away from it. It is the biggest area of concern. So I'm happy that he got to start today. I hope that this was like a shake off the cobwebs moment for him. I hope they don't lose faith in him. And I'm curious to see what the Interisti on Twitter have said about his performance. I haven't seen much said about it, but I'm definitely intrigued as to what people think.
Yeah. Do you maybe see what he can do against Liverpool next week, or are you going to still ride with Jan Sommer there?
I just don't see a scenario where Kivu has explicitly stated Jan is our number one. I don't see a scenario where, especially you win your first 4 games in the Champions League, you come up against your first head-to-head big clash, and you lose that one. Puts a lot more pressure to take care of a Liverpool team that has sputtered plenty this season. So, I think he goes with Sommer, and I don't know what spot he's going to find for Pep. I haven't looked at the fixture list too far ahead, but hopefully it's not going to be too long.
Because maybe the Super Coppa.
Yeah, it could be the Super Coppa. I think actually that makes perfect sense to give him the entirety of it, depending on how long we go in the competition. Henrik Mkhitaryan returned from injury. He's been gone for a lot longer than I realized. Came off the bench and did his Mkhitaryan thing, which is create a couple opportunities, flub the easiest chance of his career, and run all over the pitch like a madman. It did not skip a beat.
No, and I've been calling for Zielinski to replace Mkhitaryan since we brought in Zielinski, and maybe because Mkhitaryan never gets injured, that I didn't realize what we had until we missed out on him for the last 3 or 4 weeks. But man, I have missed Mkhitaryan, and I would never have thought I would ever say something like that before in my life. But then he puts this performance in, does really good, and then you just see that miss, and you're like, oh, this is why we were calling for him not to be in the starting 11 anymore. Because I guarantee if Zielinski, Sucic, Fratesi, any of those guys are in that position. We have 6 goals this match and everything. And it's just frustrating that Mkhitaryan, who at one point in Dortmund was a pretty decent finisher. I think he was like a double-digit goal scorer one time
Really
in
good.
Germany. And the fact that he can't score a goal to save his life is so frustrating, because at 37, he still does offer a lot for this squad. And that energy, like you said, is impressive for someone who's 37 years old. But you gotta put something on the score sheet every once in a while. It's frustrating, especially when there's an opportunity like that. It's like, what does he have to do to get a goal? Honestly,
as you get older, you lose a little bit. Sommer's getting older, losing the shot stopping. Mkhitaryan's getting older, lost his finishing. I won't take a shot at it yet.
He should have went to Turkey over these last 3 or 4 weeks and got some hair.
Got the hairline fixed.
Got the Augusto treatment.
I think it's just part of who he is. I can't even imagine without that. I don't know, what do you even call that, widow's peak or something?
Yeah.
But it's good to have him back. I think the one thing about his fit in this midfield is that, wouldn't it be so much more preferable if you could see him playing on the right to get Barella, to give Barella a bit of a spell and be able to play Zielinski and Sucic a lot more. He's never played on the right-hand side of the midfield. And I don't think that he's not capable, but he's just never done it. No coach has played him there. It's very interesting. But it does kind of make the minutes distribution a little bit weird, because technically you have Barella and Fratesi on the right, and then Miki, Sucic, and Zielinski on the left side. And that's not how you want to divide the minutes at all, at all.
No.
And DIOUF also on the right. So, I guess between Fratesi and DIOUF, someone needs to play a little bit less. Or Barella, needs to be able to make it with all those minutes. All right, Anjo Boni.
What a player.
The guy is unbelievable. Somebody tweeted at me, he's going to be a 100 million player in a couple of years. I mean, if you're a scout, this guy could be a 100 million player this summer. What if he bags 20 goals for Inter this season?
Yeah.
His realistically, his contribution rate, he should be playing a lot over the season. He could have 20 plus goals and assists very easily.
Yeah, and it looks effortless, honestly, when he's out there. He's not doing anything too crazy. It just, the ball seems to find him. He battles with players, but it doesn't look like Pio sometimes looks laborious when he's out there and everything. And Boni, to juxtapose that, he looks just so effortlessly everywhere in every facet of his game, whether it's driving at a defense on the left-hand side, which he finds himself a lot of the times, or even, coming into the season, everyone was worried about his finishing. But today, you're not a bad finisher if you can hit a ball like that into the top corner. And if he can continue this run of form, Thuram better be scared, because his place in the team is maybe up, because Boni is a player that I love everything about the guy. I can't say anything more than just he's what a talent we have, and I'm so happy to have him with Inter, and not, I think in the summer a couple other teams were interested in him, and I'm glad that we moved quick and efficiently, which we usually never do. And I think Kivu maybe was a big part about that, getting Boni in here, because he could see the talent that guy has.
He just looks like he's having fun.
He does.
The game does not look hard for him. He's 21 years old. He's playing huge competition, top 5 league competition at 21 years old, and it just looks like he's enjoying himself. Like you said, not laborious, just getting into it, which means that he has huge potential. I don't want to see 100 million in it. I don't want to see it, because these directors can't help themselves.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it.
That 2% from Morata that he has now, he's biting at the bullet to get 100 million.
Yeah. I think we're going to see Thuram Lauti this weekend, but yeah, Boni and Pio both on the score sheet. You feel good about that. The kids, Koki with 30 minutes, 10 minutes for Spinacha and Bovo. Spinacha had one back heel that I thought was pretty good. Bovo, did his job. Koki had a lot more time. he looked lively. He does look like physically there's some growing to do, which makes sense. He's 18 years old. But listen, I don't think we're going to see these guys again. But I've liked Koki for a long time. I don't know if you have any opinions on any of these youngsters.
Just today, I thought Koki, his distribution, especially on that free kick, was not good. He had a cross that might have been the cross that found its way to DIOUF that got cleared off the line. It really didn't find its target. Luckily, DIOUF was back there to clean it up. But he didn't look confident when he came in. Even on the sideline, he looked a little nervous. So maybe that played a factor. But I thought Spinace and Bovo looked tidy, like you said. He didn't put a foot wrong, really. He definitely physically isn't on the same level as the players that were out there. And Spinace, I mean, if he would have taken the shot on his right instead of his left as well, what a moment that would have been for the kid. And maybe that grows in confidence with him. But like you said, these guys aren't going to see the field anytime soon. It was great that they got opportunity in minutes, but they didn't do anything to stake their claim in the side at all.
Bovo was 13 for 13.
Yeah,
I'll take that. Literally did not put a foot wrong. So we'll definitely take that home. Another story for today: Jan Sommer, Alessandro Bastoni, Francesco Acerbi, Manuel Akanji, Federico Di Marco, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, Nicolo Barella, Lautaro Martinez. Not a damn minute. You'll love to see that. See that.
Did you see him on the sideline when Pio came off, flexing the muscles over there?
Yeah.
You love to see it.
They desperate. This team, with the amount of football they have played in the past 5 years, any time that there's a full rest for any of these guys, these are our guys, like these are our top guys, man, you're really, it's really encouraging and you're really happy to see it. So that's the story of the match. Do you have anything else you want to talk about the match before we get into the listener questions?
No, it was a good performance, like we already touched on all around.
All right, let's do it. We're going to you guys. Oh my goodness. Do we not have a single question? You MFers on a Wednesday. On a Wednesday, not a single question. That's what it was.
No one can question anything when you put 5 away, you know?
Yeah. All right, man. So I guess we're good to go. Why don't you go ahead and plug your stuff? We'll add it to, when we put the podcast out, but go ahead and let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, mainly just on YouTube, Instagram. I think on Instagram it's Pazza_podcast. YouTube, it's just Pazza Podcast. I try and post mainly because I'm a busy man, or like to think I am. I post mainly like Monday mornings after the Serie A matchup on the weekend. Don't really do much midweek stuff. But yeah, just be on the lookout for Monday mornings, releasing usually around 7:30 Eastern time here in the States. And appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome. I'm really happy that this is the game that we got to talk about, because God forbid it was post a derby or something like that. That would have been a lot tougher. All right, y'all. In the words of the great Roberto Scarpini, Forza ragazzi, forza ragazzi, forza ragazzi.